When I was from year 8 to year 10, so 12 till like 15, I had this kooky dookie maths teacher called Miss Lewis. And when I mean kooky dookie, she was one of those maths teachers that was terrible at her job but left a lasting impact on her students' lives. Like till this day, the ramifications and the effects that Miss Lewis had on my life and my friends' lives are still felt very viscerally up until today. Okay, she was a pathological liar, but she told stories that were so enthralling that you'd walk away and feel, wow, I could become a spy. Like, let me tell you some of the lies this woman used to say. She used to tell us that, what's it called? That she had a friend who was a spy for the government. And that there was one day that she was on the way to Blue Water. Okay, she was on the M25. I don't know roads in England. I do not know roads in London, so it might not have been the M25. But she was on the M25 and there was a car chase. People were shooting at her friend's car. And in the middle of the shoot case, right, as they were bang, 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 banging, Miss Lewis was looking left and right out of fear and concern for her life. Her friend also whips out a gun from the glove compartment and goes to her friend. And her friend goes, by the way, Miss Lewis, I am a spy. Proceeds to bang, bang, bang in this weird car gun chase on the middle of the M25 that nobody else heard about it because the government covered it up. That's how kooky Miss Lewis was. And she told us this story with conviction that she was telling the truth. And she was like, and you know what my friend studied? She studied maths at uni. Now, again, could Miss Lewis have been telling the truth? I don't know. But she's one of those teachers that like I can never forget. And whenever me and my friends are sitting down reflecting on life, she's somebody that just comes up all the time in different scenarios. Another thing she used to ask us all the time when we used to come into her class, randomly in the middle of a maths lesson, was, what's your brand, Kevin? What's your brand, Jacqueline? You know, what is your brand? You know, how do you sell yourself? How do you carry yourself? This is to a bunch of 13-year-olds, by the way. And we were just like, girl, just teach your damn class. Like she just had this I don't want to say she was a unique teacher, you know. But I do feel like she wanted to imbue us with a lot of knowledge, with a lot of inspiration, with a lot of things that like, you know, spark us to like really think about our future. And I think that was something very powerful. Albeit she was borderline not she was really mean to me. She had favorites. She had very clear and obvious favorites in our class. Like, for example, I have terrible eyesight. Like, when I tell you, this is something genetic. Like, I've always had really, really bad eyesight. So I've always had really, really strong glasses prescriptions. But that being said, there was one time where my glasses had broken, so I just didn't have a pair of glasses. And I'd gone into Specsavers to get new ones. But obviously, those of you who have really bad glasses prescriptions know that if you have very, very thick lenses or very, very complex prescriptions, then it takes them a little bit longer for them to get the glasses in. For somebody, it can normally take 2, 3, maybe even 4 days. But for me, it takes around 15 to 16 days for my glasses to come in from anywhere. Specsavers, Boots, my private opticians, like it always just takes a considerable amount of time. And so there was a 2-week gap where I just did not have my glasses. This woman sat me at the back of the classroom. Okay. I remember telling her I was so mature for my age. Like, honestly, this really grinds my gears now. Like, I'm actually getting a bit triggered. But I remember I went to her classroom like early. Like, I got into school early. I had her first period. I got on that bus early, walked in, knocked on the door of her classroom, was like, good morning, Miss Lewis. I hope you had a great evening. I hope you're having a great morning. I just wanted to say, this is my situation with my glasses. Would it be possible to move me to the front of the class? And then she looked at me like I had just like walked in with a decapitated pigeon head. And she was like, yeah, we'll see. Like, we'll see how we can rearrange. We'll see how we can rearrange. Came to class, sat me at the very back. That I was even sitting in the middle row before she moved me to the back. And then she would put questions on the board and I couldn't see. So kindly, the person sitting next to me would like read out to me what was on the board because I physically could not see. And I remember she got so annoyed that she went to the back of the classroom. She stood next to me and she was like, time, however old she was, if I can see the board, you can see the board. What's wrong with you? And then went back to somebody with a maths degree, somebody with a teaching qualification said that to me. And I still couldn't see the board. I ended up getting a detention. I ended up getting a 1 hour long detention that I had to go and get my dad to call the school and complain about, saying like, why does my daughter have this detention? Because she can't see and it's not her fault. And Miss Lewis was like, oh no, I'm so sorry. And this is just I can only talk on my experiences, but some of the things my friends had went through because she decided that you were not liked in her classroom was ridiculous. I could tell Miss Lewis stories for ages. Honestly, we need a surviving Miss Lewis group. But one of the very positive things that she always used to say and she always used to reinforce, because she was like a maths teacher, and obviously maths is a little bit of a nerdy subject, she was like, nerds rule the world, right? By the way, nerds are some of the happiest and richest and smartest and most amazing people you meet. Right now, when you're a teenager, they're not really cool. You poke fun of them. You want to be cool. But I'm just going to remind all of you guys right now that in 10 years' time, all of the people that you guys consider nerds now are the ones that are going to be flying so high. And we scoff and we laugh because we're kids. But now that I'm sitting here 22 years of age, it is truly the era of the nerd. And so in this Female Genius episode, this feels a little bit like a mini episode because I have no notes. And I'm just here talking from some of the conversations I've been having with my friends. And we're going to talk about why I think being a nerd is the true key to happiness. Obviously, this is reductive. Obviously, there are so many different layers to happiness. But I truly do think this experience of being nerd and weird and being very passionate about very niche interests are the gateway into finding what you love about life, discovering your passions, really truly living your life in a way that's truly fulfilling, why being a nerd is great for your mental health and sometimes your physical health as well. And what does that mean to be a nerd in communities that don't necessarily accept you for being? Okay, so welcome to this more discussion-based episode of Female Genius. Oh, and if you're new and you haven't watched the Female Genius episode before, welcome, geniuses. This Female Genius podcast is all about having those discussions that are plaguing your mind. The type of things that you see on social media and you're like, I'm kind of curious about that. I go ahead and research them and spend a lot of time thinking about them and bring them as a discussion piece in this podcast. Because if it's on my mind, then it's definitely on somebody else's. So welcome, geniuses, to this episode of the Female Genius podcast. Female Genius. I guess, first of all, what would I define as a nerd? Let's actually set some definitions here, because I think everybody has a different idea and a different picture of what a nerd means. But to me, when I use the word nerd, quite generally, I mean somebody that is very passionate about things that might lie slightly outside the norm. And I mean slightly passionate, as in they spend a lot of time consuming, reading, learning, and creating about that thing. And you can have different categories of nerds. You have anime nerds, people who really love anime and the creation of it and the production of it and the storylines and the patterns, and they spend a lot of time talking, thinking, and consuming that content, right? You have film nerds, people that are cinephiles. Okay, that sounds so like crazy because cinephile, like, anyway. People who are cinephiles that love watching movies, learning about the creation of the movie, the process of making the movies, loves being part of conversations and engaging in that commentary. I met a person who was such a film nerd that they could watch a movie and tell what kind of cameras were used to make that movie just by watching it. Like, that's how much of a film nerds they are. You have science nerds. You even have things like football nerds, people that can name every single fact. Honestly, guys, there was this TikTok. Guys, I always feel like I reference things and I can never like pinpoint exactly where it's from. But I think it was done in like a football place. It's very much given Beta Squad, but not Beta Squad. And it was this guy, and he came and he was like, my special talent is I can name the name of every Doctor Who episode and its synopsis if you just tell me, like, season 3, episode 4. And he'll be able to tell you the name of the episode and exactly what happens in the episode. And it was the hottest thing I've ever seen in my life. But again, somebody who's very passionate about a thing, spends a lot of time consuming it, watching it, learning about it, being really enthralled in that world. That is what I consider a nerd. And due to media, ironically, and popular media, sometimes we other nerds. Nerds are the ones that get bullied by the jocks, or when we watch typical American high school stories, the nerds are the ones that are left as social outcasts, who are not invited to parties, who are seen as more introverted and more, Poindexterish in a sense. And so there is honestly a little bit of a negative stigma when it comes to being a nerd. But I personally think, as somebody who has almost engulfed this idea of being a nerd and super passionate about loads of things as part of her identity, I came to this realization the other day when I was having a conversation with one of my really good friends. So one of the things I I'm a bit obsessed with is setting goals and not completing them and then setting more goals and just really thinking about things that I just want to do and pursue and explore in life. And I remember one of my friends being like, I just don't think I have hobbies. I don't think I have things that I'm interested in. I do not think I have things that I really like sit down and like I'm into and I'm like obsessed with and I like nerd over, quote unquote. And she was like, it's kind of upsetting to me because I would love to be as passionate about something as you are, Jessie. And it made me deep and made me realize and reflect on how amazing and how beautiful it is to have something that you love so much, that you spend so much time consuming, that you can connect with other people that love that thing as well. And you can talk about it, and you can nerd over about it, you can have arguments about it for hours. Like, how beautiful is that to have something that you learn and you love and you fixate on so much that you are now able to do that? There's something very freeing with allowing yourself to be able to explore your passions and your interests without fear of being perceived and judged for doing so. And actually, let's talk a little bit about that, because I think a lot of the negative stigma when it comes to people not wanting to explore their interests, and I think it's kind of like two or threefold. And yeah, let's dive into that now before we go into some of the ways that I think people can begin to like unlock their inner nerd and why I think it's so good for your mental health and your happiness. Let's kind of talk about what drives people away from not really understanding what they love and why they love it. Number one, let's talk about social media. I think social media is very, very beautiful in the fact that it exposes people so many things that they never knew they could be exposed to. From watching TikToks, I have been introduced to book series that have become some of my favorite book series of all time, right? For interacting with different people in different social media and Reddit communities, I have gotten recommendations for shows, for movies, for topics of interest that I probably would have never found without social media. And for that, it's so thankful and so amazing, so beautiful. And there are loads of different social media pages that expose people to this wide variety of things that they can potentially be interested. But this is a very double-edged sword. Think about how much time on average you or potentially somebody who is obsessed with social media spends doom scrolling. How much time do you spend consuming other people's interests rather than developing and working on your own? And this was something that I truly did struggle with, and something that I found really affected me, especially a lot towards the end of last year. I'd spend so much time just scrolling through TikTok, just watching people do things, right? Watching people garden, watching people do their morning routine. Guys, actually, it's a complete side note. I love it when a blonde white girl does her really aesthetic morning routine with a gua sha, with her matcha, with her yogurt smoothie bowl, with her Pilates class. And it's all wrapped up in a 30-second TikTok. Guys, those, I could watch these TikToks for hours. I do not know what it is. They don't have to be blonde, obviously, but I'm thinking of like specific creators that I consume in my head for hours. I do not know what it is. But I would spend a lot of time watching people, do things. Like, I watched somebody do book binding, like literally ripping books to shred and creating new beautiful hardback editions with sprayed edges themselves in their house. I'd watch people learn how to play songs on piano, just watching them do that and not actioning any of the stuff myself, right? And I feel like sometimes with the digital landscape that we exist in, we can become so lost, right, in almost feeling like we are experiencing something secondhand and not allowing ourselves to actually go out and experience it ourselves, right? Like, I used to love seeing people journal and scrapbook and like, write and like, really express and detail and fine tune their emotions. And I would never do the same. I would be like, wow, this is so amazing. This is so cool. Let me like and comment and bookmark it. But why would I never go out and do it myself? I think a large aspect and something beautiful about being a nerd is that you are actioning the things that you are interested in. You are taking steps that allow you to then go and explore something that has been plaguing your mind, right? You are allowing yourself to be a participator and a contributor to a space that you love so much rather than just a passive consumer. And I think that is definitely one facet that we have just kind of been lost in kind of doing, in consuming and like just taking in rather than creating and doing. And there are loads of, I saw the funniest quote actually, because there was this guy that was talking about how often we have so many amazing ideas come through our brains when we're watching these TikToks or when we're consuming these pieces of media. We have so many like, oh, it would actually be cool to kind of learn how to make this perfume myself. Or, I've been watching this person journal. Actually, I kind of really want to see if I could do this. Like, how would I do this? And really questioning those creative ideas that come through and actioning them. And this guy was talking about how in a book, and I want to say it's the Creative Act or the Creative Arts, correct, Creative Act by Rick Rubin, but it might have been an adjacent book. And he was talking about how if you do not action your creative ideas or the ideas that played your mind, they will be given to someone else, because it conceptualizes this idea of creative ideas as an energy that passes on, and you are bestowed this energy for a limited amount of time. And if you do not action it, someone else out there in the world with the drive and the ambition to do so will action it. And if you do not create this thing, somebody else will create it for you. And it's not necessarily saying that everything that we create or everything we're nerdy or passionate about has to be something that we create for financial profit or, attention. But it's saying that if you do not action these creative ideas, they will leave you. It will be 10 years down the line and you will remember like, wow, this was something I really wish I did or started, I wanted to do or wanted to look into or wanted to get into. And I just never allowed myself the opportunity to do so. And there's like the funniest quote ever where it's like, Michael Jackson often said that if he didn't act on his creative ideas, Prince would get them. And so he would be very quick to like write down a song, write down a melody, write down something out of fear that Prince would get it next. I think that's so funny. So yeah, that's definitely one aspect. I think another aspect about being a nerd and just being super passionate and putting your passions and your ideas and your notions out for people to witness around you is, again, this fear of being perceived. And I get this so much. I spoke about this a little bit last episode. I think I speak about it recurringly on this podcast, how I ironically, because I'm speaking to you with a camera in front of me, a mic in my hand and my face blown up behind me if you're watching on video, how I have this massive fear of being perceived and being judged. I hate not being able to control the narrative of what people think about me in their mind. I'm just a control freak in general, to be honest. And I just absolutely cannot, like, the fear of somebody looking at me being like, ugh, you're so nerdy. And honestly, I think it stems from a little bit of, I don't want to say childhood trauma, because people use the word trauma so liberally, because I don't think it massively cripples me from doing things in life. But I do think I've had experiences in secondary school where I was super duper passionate about stuff and I was really loud about my love of anime, about my love of reading. I used to have this notebook where I would write down and create characters and build worlds, because one of my dreams when I was younger was to write a book or to create anime. And I remember one girl in school got her hands on it and I was telling her all about it and she just snickered and she laughed in my face, And so those kind of memories and those kind of moments, they do kind of stick around in my brain. And I kind of think sometimes if I post this podcast episode talking about Avatar: The Last Airbender and all of the philosophical lessons I've learned from Avatar: The Last Airbender, is somebody going to laugh at me and think I'm strange? If I post that TikTok where I'm talking about my favorite anime theme songs, is somebody going to look at me and think, what a weirdo? And those are things that come across my mind, because in reality, we never want to feel othered. We never want to feel like we're weird or we're strange or like we don't fit in with the society and the community that we identify with. And so it might hold us back, this idea that our community and our spaces might not accept us if we are so loud and proud about the things that keep us up at night, the things that we think about, the things that give you that tingly little feeling in your heart when you watch or you write or you sing or you do. To that, I would say the act of practicing being perceived is the best way to get over the fear of being perceived. Putting yourself out there in ways that makes you uncomfortable and getting the feedback that is either positive or neutral is the best format. Or even if you get some negative feedback or approach, and recognizing that negative feedback and approach has not killed you is something amazing and so powerful. I have recently started posting a lot on TikTok, honestly, for myself, and in the act of trying to get over my fear of being perceived. So if I have this idea, I think this would be a really good TikTok, I act on it. I try it, I make it, I post it, and then I give myself a 24-hour timeline. And after 24 hours, I watch that TikTok and I cringe and I hate it, I can delete it. But before then, I had to sit with that uncomfortable feeling of some people are going to watch this and they are going to consume this and perceive me and potentially judge me from whatever I put out there. And I just have to be okay and accepting of that. With every podcast episode, that's kind of an act of me getting over my fear of being perceived, because again, I'm putting my thoughts out there, I'm putting my opinions out there, things that I might say that might be wrong, things that people might not agree with, right? But I love this and I'm passionate about it. And I love taking the things I thought about so deeply and putting them out on a forum and a platform. And so putting it out there is practice in the art of just being perceived. And one thing I've learned through the process of doing the TikToks, from doing the podcast, from, loudly loving my books on my Instagram stories and talking to my friends about, the anime and the Marvel and that's all of the things that I love, is that the people that truly, truly love me and appreciate me and like stick by me do not care and love the fact that I'm happy. One of my best friends, I always say this, she always gets annoyed when I say it. One of my best friends does not know a single thing about anime. Does not know anything. She barely understands Marvel movies, and like she does not get it. She kind of likes reading, but like not that much. But she'll like listen if I have a good book recommendation for her. But she will still sit down and listen to me ramble about all of this stuff. Like she will listen and then she will ask questions and she'll be like, "Wait a minute, I don't get that love triangle. Can you like do that again?" Or be like, "Wait, so who is this again? Wait, oh, okay. So Superman isn't part of Marvel. Oh, okay." But the fact that she takes such active interest in the things that she knows I love shows and tells me that actually me liking these things does not make me any less lovable or any less me, right? In fact, they add to my character, they add to my personality, because these are things that I love. And the people that truly, truly love you and appreciate you and should be your community and your quote unquote tribe are the people that react in those ways to the things that you love. My friend Aradia often says, right, the people that matter won't care and the people that care do not matter. And so if you ever feel embarrassed to go and do that cosplay or dress up or just like the things that you want to like because this girl might say ill or it's not normal for certain people that look like me to do that, let's all get over myself, because truly the people that love you will just be happy that you're happy and you're exploring your interests, right? And the people that care and that judge and that say mean things, right, they do not matter and they should not matter to you.
Female genius.
Me and my friend Garrett were talking the other day, and this was actually on a very specific topic about Black women and being perceived as a Black woman. And it's very interesting to me because I can only speak about my personal experience and kind of extrapolate it through the experiences that I hear from other people and the articles and research that I read online. But one thing I found quite interesting in my experience is when I was in secondary school, yeah, I had those odd moments of people questioning like how nerdy I am. But over time, and especially by the time I hit sixth form, by the time I hit 16, people were so accepting of me as a person. And so me liking anime or superheroes or K-pop, right? Or being super into perfumes one day and being super into science and all of these things never took away from me being me, and they only added. It was never perceived as strange. It was just perceived as me being me. And I went to an all-black school. I say all-black school, like segregation. I shouldn't laugh at that. I went to a predominantly Black school. And so as a result, I felt like there was no monolith or correct way for a Black person to be, because there were so many of us. And because there were so many of us and there was so much diversity in the things that we loved and we expressed, I truly did feel like there was accepting spaces for you to be every single type of Black person there is. Like the monolith of the Black person did not exist to me. The idea of the perfect Black woman was kind of floated in and out of my head, but it wasn't something that I felt like I was ostracized for not being, or being looked down upon for not being, or being less desirable for not being, quote unquote, what people would perceive as maybe like the UK Black girl aesthetic, if not. And so when I went to university, it was kind of a shock to me, to the point where I started dampening down or hiding elements of my personality, because I started to realize and notice and observe how do I phrase this? Notice and observe how people would react strangely to the things that I would just see as so core to the things I loved and my identity. For example, doing a STEM degree was a shock to some people. Wow, you're so extroverted and you do STEM, you know? Wow, really? It's amazing, girl. And the fact people were so shocked by that, and that was like unusual. I really love anime and I'm a massive nerd. And it was a shock to some people about how well I knew my shit. Like, I don't know where some boys get this perception. And it's such a piss take where I'm like, oh yeah, I watch anime. And they like look at me and they don't take me seriously. And then they start having this conversation. And I'm like, yep. So in Dressrosa, and they're like, oh, so you do know your shit. And it was such a shock to them. I'm a massive music nerd. And so it would be really surprising sometimes when I'd be talking about different elements of music or like cadences, or we'd be working on performance, and I'd be suggesting this and I'd be suggesting this from like this region of the world because I feel like it adds, and they would look at me quite strangely. And I would, whether it was their intention or not, their reactions made me feel very othered. And I would get phrases like, oh, yeah, like, you're a massive nerd. And I'd be like, yeah, like, I've heard it before. But I was also get this idea that I was weird. I was weird because I did not fit into this identity and this like image that they've created in their head of what a Black woman is supposed to be and like and is interested in. And I often get the phrase a lot like, oh my God, Jessie, you're so different from other girls. And, you know, most Black women don't have hobbies and most Black women are this and you're so strange and you're so weird. And then I remember it really, it really disturbed me and it really upset me because I was like, no, but they do have hobbies. Like I'm talking to these Black women right now and they are so fascinated and interesting, right? And they're so talented and they're so amazing. And you guys keep trying to force them to be in this cookie cutter box that you guys are putting them in. And it's so upsetting. And again, I'm not saying it's only perpetuated by Black boys because Black girls were equally perpetuating and uplifting this thing. And I think it's a conversation that happens on Black social media quite a lot with this UK Black girl aesthetic and, you know, the Black monolith. And it's something that happens in African American cultures as well. And I think it's so interesting. And I remember my friend Garrett was saying that, do you think sometimes that you're called weird because that is the only way they can justify you not fitting outside of the norm, right? So in the sense that because you do not fit the norm, they cannot say or reshape their definition of Black women, right? They can't be like, oh, this Black woman I've noticed is doing this. Actually, like maybe I should reconsider and start thinking very differently about this Black monolith or this Black identity that I have fixated on in my mind. It's easier to other you and label you as weird so they do not have to confront actually their biases that they have in their brain. And I was like, oh, Garrett, this Cambridge degree, how smart. And I think it's so true. Sometimes what makes it hard to come out and be passionate and allow yourself to be a nerd is because we exist in spaces that expect us to be a certain way or to act a certain way or to like certain things, right? And for us to feel like we fit into those communities, we are putting on a performance of what we think we should be as a person with this identity, whether you're Black, whether you're white, whether you're Indian, whether you're woman, whether you're man. And we're putting these things, okay, this is what people expect of my identity, so this is what I'm going to perform at. And this is a problem that you can see perpetuate many different iterations other than race, right? In terms of masculinity and femininity, in terms of dating, in terms of friendships, in terms of religion, all of these different aspects, we tend to see this battle between the performance of who we think others think we should be and who we actually are, and what we enjoy and what we love and what we struggle with, right? And there is this lack of vulnerability in these spaces because there is a lack of safety presented in these spaces. But also there is a lack of courage to be able to step out and be like, okay, bro, and what? Right? And to confront people and their biases. And to that, I would say, I guess it's more of I guess it's not saying anything. I guess it's more of like, this is something that I've noticed and observed. But then again, I feel like when I started to realize that that's how certain groups of people were treating me, and how I felt like I was performing for these certain groups of people, not because they were intentionally other me, like they are really nice, amazing, smart, intelligent, kind people within their own right. But I started to realize, okay, how can I build a community around myself?
Female genius.
I think it's about building yourself a community around people that love you and appreciate you for who you are and what you love, and finding those people, like being super intentional about the friendships and what you're, and being super honest from the get-go, like being super like, hey, yeah, I love it. If you want to hear me rant about it for 45 minutes and then go ahead and do it, and you'll be like, yeah, I'm not into it. But hey, I'm super duper into it. And I think there's also an element of being open as well. I think one of the most beautiful thing about being nerdy and embracing those interests is also learning about other people's interests and what they love. And that's how you build a community that is safe and protected and has this exchange of beautiful energies of like things that you're passionate about and knowledge, and this exchange of knowledge, right? And having your friend come and sit down like and tell you about their master's thesis research and sit down and ask them questions and get them to explain it, or having your friend sit down and explain, okay, these are the rules to this sport that I love so much. I think that is important. You know, as much as you give out to a community, you have to give back, you know what I mean? As much as you take from a community, you have to give back. So, with that being said, and all of those ideas and philosophies and whatnot, explore geniuses, I guess the biggest question is now, nerds, right? How do I become more nerdy? First of all, I think, again, being a nerd is really good for your mental health because you would spend a lot of time away from social media and doom scrolling. It's very good for your dopamine to be able to create something or consume something or learn something. It's good for your neural pathways and your neuroplasticity, especially if it's something tactile or something that engages part of your brain, whether it's chess, whether it's learning a new instrument, whether it's learning the new languages. All of these different things are amazing and great for your brain. Baking, cooking, making perfumes, learning about herbology, anything that causes you to learn to do something and to move that isn't just you reading, learning how to mix beats. All of these different things are so amazing to your mental health pathways, for your brain health, number one, because it's encouraging the development of new pathways that strengthen already pre-existing pathways as well, which protects against diseases like Alzheimer's in the future and dementia. In addition to this, is really great for your mental health because you're away from that screen, right? You're engaging in something that enters you into a flow state where you kind of lose a sense of time. You're reading something, you're engaged in something that you're so passionate that you kind of forget times exist. And this has very, very positive, long-lasting effects on things like your dopamine, your serotonin levels, and other things like that. So being a nerd is great for your mental health, it's great for your social health, it's great for everything. So why is not everybody a nerd? So if you're struggling to figure out what you're passionate about, to figure out about what you like and what you can get into, I promise if you follow this 3-step femalegenius approved process, I don't know why I'm waving this bottle around. If you're watching this on camera, I'm sorry. This 3-step femalegenius approved process into getting what you are interested in. So number one, let's think about the things that you quite often consume, whether it's movies or people on social media. What is it about it that draws you to that thing? Is it the fact that the person has a specific or particular hobby that you love watching and consuming? Is it the fact that you love seeing the music and hearing the score? Is it the fact that you love learning about this very specific niche thing that this creator is interested in? Or is it the fact that you love hearing about books but you never go and read them? Identify what those pieces are. It might take you a little bit of time to clock running themes, but every so often think about, I just really like seeing this person's journal. I think it's so aesthetic. I think it's so beautiful. When I look at my Pinterest and seeing people, making outfits and putting outfits together and, building and sewing and being super creative. Once you identify that, number two, think about what is a low effort, low cost way to begin to explore this hobby. Whether that hobby is reading, maybe you get yourself a library card and you go and borrow some books for free to allow you to get really into reading. Is it film editing? Maybe you decide, okay, I'm going to take a couple shots on my phone and then on CapCut, I'm going to practice color grading on my phone and putting clips and things together. Whether it's music, it could be, okay, I'm going to book the music practice room for this long, or I'm going to buy a 20-pound ukulele and start learning how to play chords on the ukulele, right? There are many low effort, low cost ways to begin to practice your hobby. Number three, allow yourself to be a beginner. There's something that there's probably some really cool scientific name for it, but I've completely forgotten. There's something being said about that really awkward phase. When you start doing something, it's really exciting, it's really fun, right? Because you're a beginner, you're learning, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing it. Your dopamine is congratulating you. Your brain is giving you a high five for actually actioning and doing the thing that you said you're going to do. But then you recognize and realize to the point that you're not as good as that person you saw on social media. Or actually, you're starting to get like loads of scars on your hands from trying to learn how to play the guitar, right? Or actually, I'm struggling to focus on reading this book. Like my brain is just not locking in, right? Or wow, I keep dropping this prepare. Like I'm never going to make this perfume. Or wow, like this tea that I've made tastes absolutely horrible, right? There is this point where you start to realize, hey, I'm not as good as you want to be. It's like this awareness that when you're a beginner, you don't know all of what you don't know. And then as you start learning, you begin to realize there's so much you do not know that you feel really worse. And you have the sense of imposter syndrome that if you are not good enough, you should not be doing the thing. Honestly, I largely blame our education system because our education system drives us in ways to continue to pursue things that we are good at, or we get really great grades at, and that we should only continue learning or pursuing something if our grades match and back that up, which I think is quite problematic in its own way. But this is a hobby. This is not something you're being graded on. This is not something you're being marked on, right? This is something you are pursuing for your own self-fulfillment and joy and your passion and your love for it. Allow yourself to be a beginner. Allow yourself to be bad. And also, if you would like, allow the world to witness you being bad. Allow your friends and family witness you messing up French, and butchering it, right? Go and talk to your friend who fluently speaks French and said, okay, I'm going to be really rubbish, but I'm going to speak to you. If you do not allow yourself to be a beginner, you will never be an expert. There is no way to jump that beginner phase. There is no way to jump that phase where you're just really, really shit at something. Absolutely no way. And you have to allow yourself to be a beginner. You have to allow yourself to wade through those uncomfortable moments. And in those moments, one of the things that I advise is accountability, relying on your community, digital or in person, telling your friend that speaks fluent French, hey, by the way, every time you speak to me, no English, no English, no English. You know what I mean? Or go and join a book club. So you know, hey, if I do not finish this book in a month's time, this book club is going to come after me. Right? Putting yourselves in a position where you have accountability to push past being a beginner. One thing that I used to love doing when I was trying to learn how to play guitar, even though I kind of fell off and it's kind of pretty cool I'm bringing it up, is that I'd actually post every week, hey, this is a song I've been learning on guitar on my private story. And I'd be really rubbish and really shit. And I'm like, no way shredding up in guitar like I'm in a rock band or Nirvana or something. But one thing it did give me was a sense of accountability and encouragement because my friends would then see, oh my God, you've been doing this for a month. You've improved so much. Or actually, oh my God, you've just won your first chess game. Or, oh my God, this tea brew that you've just blended tastes amazing. Or, oh my God, like, actually, you know, you're complaining about the quality and how shaky it is, but the transitions on these clips look amazing. Having that accountability and that positive reinforcement that's external to you, it's so amazing for being able to push through that part of being a beginner. And that's why so many people start social media to just document and show their journeys in different things because that accountability and the notion of accountability is so powerful. I mean, there are studies done with people who have ADHD on this idea of body doubling and this notion of the fact that if you have somebody there that is also doing the same thing, you feel a stronger sense of accountability and you're more likely to focus and lock in than if somebody wasn't doing that thing. So, hey, ask a friend if they're interested in trying it. Find an online community on Reddit of people doing the same thing. One thing I've recently started doing is world building, which is basically where you build fantasy worlds for fun, like for no reason, but just for fun. And so I joined the Reddit page. And one thing I try to frequently do is update, hey, so this is the part of the world I'm building. Or if I have any questions, I'd post on the Reddit forum or, you know, answer people's questions. There are ways to build community both offline and online that encourage you to develop those nerdy skills. And finally, throw yourself into it. Don't half-ass it. Like, you know, if you're passionate about anime or film, get your film card, go every week. Join a movie club. There's this community, if you're based in London, called Movie and Mingle. They go and watch movies all the time. They're amazing. I'd met the two people that made it. It's so incredible, right? Like, you know, go and allow yourself to go to Comic-Con so you can meet other like-minded people. Go on your TikTok and be like, okay, so I read the first chapter of this book and these are my opinions. And okay, who cares if one person liked it? One person is just connected with your message. You know, put yourself out there, throw yourself out there, be loud, be proud, and I promise you, you'll be happy. Break free of the chains of being cool. Being cool is robbing you from experiencing life and being happy, okay? Because being cool is doing what you think everybody thinks you like. Really and truly, the realest and the coolest people are the people that break outside of the box. There is this quote, right, that what's it called? Those who dance often seemed insane for the people that weren't able to hear the music. People aren't hearing the melody going on in your head. People aren't seeing the things that make you happy and seeing and joyful. And right now you might think, oh my God, I look so nerdy. People, it doesn't make sense what I'm doing. People around me don't get it. But one day they will. One day somebody will, you know? I'm just so passionate about this. Being a nerd is truly one of the greatest privileges I've ever been allowed and bestowed to in my life. And I'm very thankful that I have a community around me that has allowed me to just be free and love these things and continue to post these things. And I love that Female Genius and the podcast I've created is like, from the feedback I get from people that watch the podcast and listen, is like, oh my God, because of you, I actually went and go watch that TV show and now I'm obsessed with it. Actually, because of you, I went to go learn a little bit more about the psychology of this and have a conversation of this. I'm going to start tearing up. I'm really, really grateful that this podcast can serve as a starting place and a resting place for all of the geniuses and the nerds out there in the world. Okay. Now, this episode might feel very random, but it was laid on my heart and soul from the heavens. And I'm really scared if I don't say it, somebody else might. But it doesn't matter. Anyway, guys, so please do let me know. Please have a think. What are the things that you're going to start nerding out about? What are the things that you're going to start being a little bit more passionate and speak a little bit more loudly? And let everybody know that you love and that you care about. And what are the things that you are going to start trying? For me personally, okay, so I actually have a list. One of them is I used to play piano and I used to be really, really good. I actually, you know what is, while I was playing piano, I didn't think I was that good. And then I was like watching videos back and I was like, wow, like Jessie, you were amazing. I have a video recording of me playing the opening to the anime Guilty Crown. I was like, oh, I was effing this up. I was playing it on a Steinway. Girlies and and so I really wanted to get back into that hobby per se and really get into like really knowing my shit about music, like music theory, playing by ear, learning piano songs, maybe getting to a bit of production. I don't know, but music is something that I've always said is one of the greatest loves of my life. Like books, science, and music, I've always said that trio is one of the greatest loves of my life. And you know, in this polyamorous relationship I'm in, music has kind of been left on the wayside. So I've signed myself up for a grade 5 music theory exam in October. And I'm very excited for it because it's now forcing me. Like I feel like the exam and the impending deadline is like forcing me to like lock in. But it's also really amazing because I'll be watching a movie and I'll be listening to a score or listening to like a live band, and I'm hearing things that I haven't heard or noticed in music in a long time because I'm looking into my music theory, that sort of thing. Or how I've also signed up to do like a grade 5 performance piano exam. Okay, so roughly I'm aiming for December, January. I'm aiming for like December, but I think I might delay it. But it's also causing me to like learn like actual pieces. I like look here, and I'm having so much fun, and I'm like sharing clips with my friends. Ugh. And another thing I've done is like collect vinyl. Like I'm really just getting into my music nerd bag. I've actually been Googling like, okay, so like what are essential albums music lovers should know? And like going through and listening to those albums while I code. The nerdiest thing ever. That's some of the things I'm kind of into. And obviously I have this podcast, which has been so fun, but I've also been posting more on my TikTok about like anime and superheroes and like random stuff that I'm into. And that has been so fun because I'm meeting so many new people and learning so many cool things and getting recommendations that I never would have had if I didn't put myself out there. So yeah, that is it for this episode. And I love you guys so much, my little nerds, my little geniuses. And I will see you next week on the next episode of the Female Genius podcast. Bye, everyone.
Female genius.